Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Sounds Like Sam. I'm your host Sam. Thanks for tuning in, I really appreciate it. This week's episode is going to be a Super Bowl recap where Eagles took on the Chiefs. The Eagles dominated. Kansas City kind of fell flat, didn't really get anything going in the first half at all. Barely scraped anything together in the last quarter of the game. 34-6, and at the end of the third quarter, the only reason why the Chiefs even scored points in the fourth quarter was because the Eagles put their second string players in. Honestly, it was fun. It was a fun Super Bowl to watch for the first half because they were just everything was going the Eagles' way. But then by the second half, I was and really the second quarter, I was like, wow, I just I don't like feeling bad for the Chiefs, but I kind of feel bad for the Chiefs because it was just abysmal for them the way they played. I don't even think they had 40 yards in the first half. I think it was 38 yards total, which is completely disappointing, completely shattered my expectations of the game because I thought it was actually going to be a close game, and I thought it was an exciting matchup. It was nice to see the Eagles succeed, but for me to be I want to turn the Super Bowl off and it's not even halftime, that was a little disappointing. But obviously I wanted to see the reactions of guys like Jalen Hurts and CU1 MVP because there were definitely a couple MVP performers for the Eagles, not just offensively but defensively too. First up, I want to talk about the Super Bowl X Factor performances. Obviously, Jalen Hurts of the Eagles had a phenomenal performance. I believe he had 190 yards throwing the ball, 3 touchdowns. I think he ran one in, which if I'm not mistaken, I don't even know if they did a tush push the entire game. They might have won, but I can't remember. So I guess that was a little. Maybe I missed it. Honestly, I might have to research that before I say anything further. But he played phenomenal. I mean, there was a point I think in the third quarter where they had just gotten the ball and they were already up. Very first play, 50-yard Devonta Smith touchdown with a dime of a pass by Jalen Hurts. And I think that kind of that play sealed the deal for the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts played the best that he could and showed that he is a top quarterback in the league. Another impact X Factor performance would be the Eagles' defensive line. They played phenomenally. They had 7 sacks versus Patrick Mahomes in this game alone, which is ridiculous. It's basically you get a sack, you get a sack, you get a sack. And then there were guys like Josh Sweat. Man, what a performance by him. 2.5 sacks. Possibly could have been an MVP as well for the Eagles just because he was playing flat out best ball of his life in the biggest game of his life. So that was really cool to see. But then guys like Milton Williams too had 2 sacks, had a forced fumble to seal the game. And then they had Cooper DeJean, who was their rookie corner who had a pick 6 in the first half on his birthday, and after the game became the highest rated cornerback of this year's corners. So as a rookie, that was pretty phenomenal, but the fact that he wasn't even put in the first couple games of the season, really started week 6 and has been just dominating the whole entire year, is pretty amazing. Pretty sure I read all year he only had 1 touchdown thrown against him, which is pretty insane. Good for him. That was really cool. I think the interesting part about the Eagles defense too is that they did all of that. They had all those 7 sacks on 0 blitzes. That means they only went on with 4-man rushes the entire game. It was pretty incredible. That they were just dominating the Chiefs' offensive line, which is supposed to be a really, really good offensive line. And so they were definitely X factors in this game as well. And then I would also claim that on the Chiefs side, their X factor player was Xavier Worthy, who had the most receiving yards for a rookie in a Super Bowl, which is pretty amazing in itself. So he had, if for 8 targets, he had 8 receptions, 157 yards, and 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. An amazing game for him. Shout out to Xavier Worthy because he was literally like the only spark that they had. Those are my X factors of the game. The only other credit I'll give to the Chiefs is they held Saquon Barkley to pretty sure less than 60 yards rushing, which on the run that he had during the playoffs is an incredible feat for them. And you could definitely tell that that was a point of emphasis for them during this game, and they definitely succeeded with that. But basically everything else they kind of shut down. And that is where I'm going to get into what went wrong for the Chiefs. So basically, first off, offensive line. As you can probably tell just by me talking about how the defensive line played for the offense. I mean, for the Eagles, they dominated the Chiefs' front. Looked like Mahomes was dropping back every single play. In my previous episode, I said that this is something that they would have to do, that they'd have to keep Patrick Mahomes under wraps to be able to not let him escape or make any like superstar worthy plays. And they were able to keep him under wraps. The Chiefs' offensive line could not hold up against the Eagles' defensive front. And then they also just couldn't get any offense going in general. Like I said previously, I think they only had like 38 yards of offense in the first half. That's not even like rushing. That's total offense. They could not put anything together. And this is supposed to be the offense to beat in the NFL. I mean, you hear it basically all the time. How great the Chiefs offense is, or how great Patrick Mahomes is. You'd think he'd be able to put something together because he is one of those guys who definitely comes up a lot in clutch moments. And the fact that they had like this season 11 games where they were like within one score of opponents. I just felt like personally Patrick Mahomes this year didn't really do that great of a job compared to what like you think he would do. But yeah, to be able to not get any offense going against this Eagles defense was definitely surprising. What was also surprising is guys like Travis Kelce and DeAndre Hopkins had pretty big drops in the first half that definitely would have moved the game forward for them. And Travis Kelce was probably the biggest surprise in my mind because he is such an X factor for the Chiefs. I don't know if there was just a lot of emotions going into this game because I mean, his girlfriend's Taylor Swift. She has obviously a huge influence, and maybe it was just getting to them. But in my opinion, like especially the way that they talked up this game, it was like, yeah, we're totally ready for this game. We're going into it. It's like we're ready for this. They did not look like they were ready, and I read something that was saying the Chiefs had Super Bowl fatigue because they had already been there twice. They like mentally being there a third time for a third time in a row. A lot of the players just they didn't really understand how big the moment was, which I think is stupid. Like they had like at least I think they had a full week in addition to like the week of the Super Bowl to prepare for this game because I mean because they had the All Pro game or whatever, the All Star game, and so they had that full week to prepare, and then they had the Super Bowl week to prepare. But to be able to like say like, oh, they did a bad like they didn't play well because they were like overthinking or like didn't think anything of it, basically, I think is really stupid. Like they obviously had the talent all year. I personally just felt like the Chiefs haven't been as good as they were, and maybe they had too many cooks in the kitchen. And in that note, I'm talking about like all their weapons that they had. It's almost like they had too many guys to go to, and too many options this whole entire year, which I think it does sound kind of dumb of a reason, but when you think about like all the receivers that they had on hand for this game. They had DeAndre Hopkins, Marquise Brown, Travis Kelce, Juju Smith-Schuster, Mecole Hardman, who I didn't hear anything about. I don't even know if he got a touch in this game. Kareem Hunt, Isaiah Pacheco. I don't know. I feel like they have to have like some type of momentum builders, and I'm forgetting about Xavier Worthy too. And I mean, they had like Rasheed Rice who didn't even play this year, but like I just felt like that would be an excuse or a cop out for them to say that. But at the same time, like the guys who needed to step up, like Travis Kelsey, didn't step up in this game, and their running backs didn't really do anything either. So I don't want to put all the blame towards Patrick Mahomes, but his offense and weapons did not do him any favors in this game either, and they really didn't get right until the fourth quarter. So that's really, in my opinion, where the Chiefs went wrong. Ending on this note, where do the teams go from here? What was interesting to me was after, I think it was like 2 days after the Super Bowl, there's like a quote from AJ Brown saying that he was actually unsatisfied with winning a Super Bowl because he said he loves winning like almost the hunt of going versus a corner, being able to be the best and compete every day, and getting motivation to be the best wide receiver in the NFL is his motivation and bread and butter. That's what he loves about coming back to football. He wants to be the best. He doesn't necessarily. I think after winning the Super Bowl, he felt like it what mattered more was like personal goals of him like being the best wide receiver in the NFL and in the game. And I think that's an interesting point to bring up because he was a big factor in them winning, but he wasn't like the only factor for them either. And I feel like for the Eagles, like they're mostly a run heavy team. So I feel like it could be an interesting note that this may sound crazy, maybe a hot take, but it's possible that maybe he asked for a trade because even though he's in a great situation and he's on a winning team and a winning environment, if he wanted to go to a team and like be the X factor for them, unfortunately, at this point, he's not going to be the X factor for the Eagles. Like, in my opinion, Saquon and Jalen Hurts are the X factors for the Eagles, and they would still have a great receiver in Devontae Smith. But I could see them possibly letting him go, or if he asked for a trade, that he could do that. Because I think if he really wants to be the best, he probably should I don't know, go to another team. And I think like they were showing that I don't know if you remember a few years ago when when they didn't take Justin Jefferson over, and they took Jalen Rager over Justin Jefferson. That was kind of after that year, that was a turning point for them. That's why they took Devonta Smith. That's why they targeted AJ Brown for a trade. What if Minnesota trades Justin Jefferson to the Eagles? I, I don't think that Justin Jefferson will mind. I think it'd be a great opportunity for AJ Brown. Uh, I think that's I don't know. I feel like that's an interesting concept. I think it would be a pretty equal trade. I think you'd probably get more value from a guy like Justin Jefferson, but I do feel like him saying all that, like I wouldn't be surprised, maybe not this year, but maybe like a year from now or when his contract's up, that he does decide I want to test free agency again. I want to be the X factor on the team because yeah, he's currently behind Saquon and Jalen, in my opinion. What's interesting too for the Eagles, Sweat, Zach Bond, Milton Williams all are becoming free agents this offseason for the defense, which are going to be pretty big blows for them. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. I've been reading a lot of like 49ers are going to be targeting maybe Milton Williams because they might be getting rid of Greenlaw or Bosa, possibly. I don't know, but that could be a good place for both of them. Or Sweat and Williams. I feel like Zach Bond has proven himself as an Eagle, and probably I feel like they'd sign him. But yeah, the others probably not. Chiefs, on the other hand, I was reading that Chiefs want to get Kelsey more involved, which I mean is really dumb that they weren't getting him involved this year in the first place. especially in fantasy-wise. I did have him in a PPR league this year. He did okay sometimes, but for the most part, he was struggling, especially at the beginning of the year. So I'd also like to see him getting more involved, but at the same time, given his like where he is in his career, and like the players and weapons that they have around him, I wouldn't be surprised if he kind of stays at his current level or moves down a little bit, because there's definitely like tight ends, fantasy wise at least, that like Brock Bowers, who I think could and are have already like succeeded him as next best tight ends. So other than that, Chiefs will likely part ways with some of their wide receiving core. They had guys like Juju Smith-Schuster, DeAndre Hopkins, Mecole Hardman, and Hollywood Brown, who are all expected to be free agents. The only guy out of those four receivers that I can actually see them bringing back is actually DeAndre Hopkins, in my opinion, because I feel like he did establish some type of rapport with Patrick Mahomes, and I feel like this could be another opportunity for him to try to make another Super Bowl appearance. Obviously, it depends on like where the Chiefs see him, but at the beginning of the year they were like, "Oh, Juju's our guy" when Rashee Rice went down, and obviously he wasn't, because they had to bring in DeAndre to substitute for his like lack of production. So I feel like Juju isn't going to be back. I don't think Hollywood Brown is. Last I checked, I saw a rumor that Josh Allen was trying to recruit him to the Bills. So and I don't know where Mecole would go, but I'm sure he would find somewhere. But overall, there's a lot of questions this offseason. It'll be interesting to see how things play out. But that was my Super Bowl recap. Really appreciate you guys listening to this episode. If you haven't already, go subscribe to Sounds Like Sam wherever you get your podcast. And make sure you follow me on all my social platforms, Instagram, Twitter. Thanks for tuning in, and peace.